Welcome back. We are in Matthew chapter 6, part 4, and it's verses 16 to 24. Now, in this passage, we're again dealing with um, fasting now, one of the acts of righteousness, fasting. And fasting can appear to be holy, just like the prayer and giving to the needy. But what is the motive behind it? Isaiah 58:5 actually explains what a true fast is. Let me turn there. Whoops. Jeremiah, there we go. Isaiah 58:5. Without reading the whole thing, I do encourage you to go read the whole passage because it is highly enlightening. But if you read 58:5, it says, "Is this the kind of fast I have chosen? Only a day for a man to humble himself? Is it only for bowing one's head like a reed and for lying on sackcloth and ashes? Is that what you call a fast, a day acceptable to the Lord?" So this is where the Pharisees were doing. They were making it look like they were sacrificing everything and humbling themselves and looking like they're just awful suffering kind of thing, to make people think that they're righteous. And again, it was just, as I think Jesus says later on, you just it's like whitewashed tombs because there's all of this on the outside, but there's nothing on the inside. So, if you're wanting to truly know what I expect as a fast, then he goes into the rest of it. Is it not this? And it's a long list, but is it not this: to loose the chains of the injustice and untie the cords of the yoke, to set the oppressed free and break every yoke? Is it not to share your food with the hungry and to provide the poor wanderer with shelter? When you see the naked, to clothe him, and not to turn away from your own flesh and blood? Then your light will break forth like the dawn. We quote this next whole passage: "The Lord will guide you always, he will satisfy your needs in sun scorched land." We quote that part, but we don't look at this is in the context of fasting. If you want to receive all of these blessings, then you have to do what I just read of doing the right kind of fast and caring for those who are in need and setting the captives free. So Jesus teaches that fasting should not be done for show again. He taught this in the Old Testament. He's teaching again now in the New Testament. It's not done for show. Even referencing oil. And the oil during this time was used as a cosmetic. So appear normal. Appear like you actually are taking care of yourself, not that you're suffering. It should be focused on your private devotion and your heart towards repentance and your heart for people, as he's saying here, not about the outward appearance. Now, in the Old Testament, fasting was observed for three main reasons: the Day of Atonement, which was a time of repentance and purification, repentance, seeking forgiveness and turning back to God, and seeking God's mercy, which was also petitioning for his guidance and intervention. In verse 19, we read, we're going to get away from fasting now and talk a little bit here about money. In verse 19, Jesus challenges us to examine what occupies our minds and consumes our energy. "Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moth and rust destroy and where thieves break in and steal. But store up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where moth and rust do not destroy and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also." So if we truly value God above all else, it's going to be evident in our priorities, how we spend our time, our resources, our efforts. So Jesus is not condemning wise management or saving money. He is addressing again, because this whole part that we've been talking about is he's addressing the motivations of the heart. What treasures are you storing up for eternity? Having wealth or protection, even as a weapon, is not inherently evil, but the love of money or the love of violence, those are the things that are the root of evil. So check your motives. Are you using wealth and treasures on earth to advance God's kingdom, or is it for your own benefit? If your pursuit is centered on accumulating wealth rather than seeking God's guidance on how to use those resources that he has entrusted to you, then that is when it's saying that becomes your God. You cannot serve both God and money. So check your motives. What are you putting your time, energy, resources into, and whose kingdom are you trying to build? If it's for Satan, then you'll see it throughout how you use your money. If it's for God's kingdom, you will also see it. It's the fruits. What does your fruit what fruit does your tree bear? If I can get any of my words out this week, I will try. It's talking about the light too. Let's finish off with this part. Be mindful of what you set your sights on. It can either bring light or darkness into your life. Um, you, if you serve two masters, it leads to a tearing apart of the soul, and until one finally wins. And you know what? I want to go ahead and tell a story, and then I'll finish off this section. But I'm going to tell a brief story because I think it illustrates it really well. So in my BC years, my before children years, I was working wife, but I was manager of a clinic along with two other women, and we were all three on the same level. We didn't have any other hierarchy other than two owners. Now, both of our two owners that we had vastly different values and ways of wanting to lead the clinic and which direction to take it in. And because of that, there was a turmoil between both of them that then trickled down to us managers. And there was one in particular that continued to stir up dissension and try to divide us as a team. And so at some point, it ends up one of those is going to have to win out. And you cannot serve both masters, it will destroy. So at one point, one did bow out and the other took over the clinic. And I wasn't there at that time, but it did cause a lot of problems. And that is exactly what he's saying. You cannot have two masters that are on total opposite values and views, and you can't steer a ship in two different directions. You will tear the ship apart. So that is what he's saying. So don't make sure, again, you check your motives. And you cannot serve both. You cannot serve both God and money. Money can become an idol. It can become a god. So check where your motives are and whom are you going to serve? Who will you put your priorities? Is it in God? Is it building his kingdom? Or is it building your own and Satan's kingdom?